Thank you very much to the OW2Con team for organizing the conference and giving us all the possibility to share knowledge and have discussions with each other. Organizing such a conference is a lot of work, so thanks for all the people involved here. So the FSFE's mission is to empower users to control technology. And beside the part I will talk about, which is about the young generation, we have other fields. For example, in device neutrality, which is about the right to install any software or remove any software from any of your devices. We are at the moment in litigation against Apple in front of the European Court of Justice around the Digital Markets Act. We are in legal education, for example, involved in NGI, helping projects there that they get answers to their legal and licensing questions, where there's a workshop here about NGI. We are involved in market regulation activities, including like the CRA, where there's also a parallel track here about that. And beside that, also with Public Money, Public Code, the campaign which we initiated in 2017 about the demand that publicly financed software should be available under a free software license. But today we are talking about the young generation area, and we thought about at the FSFE when we are in 2048. Why 2048? Because 4096 is too much ahead. So we were thinking about how do we notice that we have been successful in our work when we look around us. And for the area with the young generation, we thought that by 2048, young people, they love to tinker, experiment, and code with free software as their default. And what are we doing about that already to reach this goal? One of the things we do is we are organizing a European-wide coding competition called Youth Hacking for Freedom. It's for European countries. You have to be between 14 and 18 years. And you can work on any kind of project as long as it's afterwards free software. The background about that was also, we thought in the media it's often like, oh, all this cool technology, it's developed by people somewhere from Silicon Valley or someone from the US, but there are really great people here in Europe who develop cool new things. And we wanted to show that there are young people in Europe who are doing cool things, so that you as an 18-year-old, when you're looking around, you see, oh, this 14-year-old was doing this project, maybe I can do something less advanced myself as well. So we run this project now. It's a longer coding period. At the moment, we are at the end of the current coding period. And when they are done with this coding period, we have a jury that is evaluating that. And we then bring the winners together in Brussels for an award ceremony. Before that, we have a small some activities between the winners there, so they are also connecting with each other. So we have winners from Greece, from Spain, from Poland, from the Netherlands, from France, and they get to know each other. And hopefully also in future, maybe do some projects together, who knows. And there are really cool projects in there. Just picking one, like this is Miguel, and he did this open hardware free software project with a smart table. Because his mother at that time was in a wheelchair. And so they're really doing cool stuff there. And yeah, we then bring them together. They get some trophies and some award money from 1,024 to 2,048 to 4,096 euros, which they can afterwards invest again into traveling to free software conferences, buying some hardware, or whatever they want. And the cool thing is also, we also invite their parents. And for a lot of them, they make the experience for the first time that their children are not considered a bit the outsiders and the weird kids, but there are people around who really say like, your child is amazing. What they are doing, that's mind-blowing. And yeah, so that's one of the really nice things there. What the help we need with this is, if you help to tell people at that age group that there is this competition and encourage them to participate there, or also tell people to look what kind of people won there with projects, to encourage others to also start coding, that's really one thing that helps there. Now, going to the other topic. In 2017, I had a problem. I had 2 children, and or 1 children at a time, and I was thinking about how will I explain my children why it's so cool to tinker and experiment with technology. And what is free software, what is software hardware, and all of those topics. And so I was, the way free software communities work, reaching out by email to people asking like, do you have some examples of books that explain software and hardware or free software or any of those concepts for this age group? And I did get not much response. It was all for older people or more documentation. So what I did at that time was I was starting to do some bedtime stories. So I invented every evening or every couple of evenings when I was sitting in bed, I started to tell some stories, which included some parts of the day, some ice cream or a skateboard or whatever happened on that day, and included some things about software and technology. And over the time, a story developed there because children, they give you very direct feedback. I don't want to hear that. Tell me more about that. We want to have this included there. And yeah, so this story developed. And at one point, I had a meeting with one of the donors of the FSFE. And we were talking about some ideas, and including also Youth Hacking for Freedom. And then at the end, I said, yeah, and maybe I might write a children's book about free software. And he said, if you are doing this, I will buy 1,000 copies and give that to our partners to make sure that they know about free software as well. And that's when I started. And then there's a longer story of how I got involved with publishers, about CC licensing and all of that. And yeah, the result was then the book Ada and Zangemann, A Tale of Software, Skateboards, and Raspberry Ice Cream. We meanwhile have many different translations about that. So those are the ones which were printed. There are new ones coming up. I heard last week that next month there will be a Breton version, a French dialect, so also printed. And yeah, so there was also, like in France, it was actually a really nice project that happened there. So someone from the Ministry of Education saw the German book at FOSDEM, one of the largest conferences around free software in Brussels. And then a few months later, I heard about this great project that several schools, 4 schools in France, were doing a project where for several weeks they talked about the book. They had the illustrations, had to write their own story about the illustrations, compared that with the actual story I wrote. And then they talked about how is that related to reality. And then they translated that together. Over 100 pupils in France translated the book online together. And the Ministry of Education then found a publisher that was publishing it. And that's the Minister of Education at that time who was presenting that in a German-French parliamentary meeting in Bonn as an example of German-French cooperation. So. Beside that, yeah, we also had some nice arts here from a French comic artist, David Revoy, who has a very nice webcomic. And there were more people picking that up because the license allowed it to make adoptions to it. So it's all available under Creative Commons Share Alike, which is the same license that Wikipedia is using. And so it's available as open educational resource. And we actually had some discussions there with publishers, which were very similar to free software discussions around 20 years ago. So he said, like, I need exclusive rights. And I told him, like, that's not possible because we already published the German version and the English version. I can't give you exclusive rights. And he said, oh, but that's communism. And so really, like 20 years ago, discussions about free software. And the cool thing about that was that in Spain then, after the publisher declined, the Volkswagen distributor there, they translated it themselves. And then they printed the book. And they are going around with an electric bus with 3D printers and 2 female engineers, and then they read the book or meanwhile show the movie. And then they go to areas where there is low involvement of young women and girls in STEM. and then afterwards they do 3D printing with them and get them involved in technology. So that was possible there because it's available under free license. Beside those translations then going on at that time, we had several of our volunteers that got engaged in streamlining the process of doing the translations. So there's meanwhile a whole tool chain. There's a whole FOSDEM talk about the technology behind that, how to go from translations into different output formats, from book to subtitles to some others I will cover here. And here's the impact we had when we introduced WebLate, going then from April 2025, where we introduced that to over 30 translations nowadays. And that was one of the things which was really amazing to see when you also work on your tool chain and make it easier for people to participate, what impact that had. We also had people there, like from one day to another, the Persian translation went up, completed. And so the Nico Ricken, the coordinator of this automation, reached out to them and said, like, how was that happening, that you did that all on one weekend with the comets? And then they sent us some pictures that they met there with this group, and they did a translation sprint over the weekend, translated it together, and made a Persian translation of Ada and Zangemann. They also already wanted to print 15,000 copies. And yeah, but then there were some political happenings in Iran, and so I hope that all of them are at the moment with good health, because I haven't heard from them for several weeks now. But yeah, so that's one of the things there. Translations are popping up in many different places. Because we also then changed the pipeline of creating different outputs, there were people thinking about, okay, what else can we do there? So if we can create PDFs, we can create subtitles, what about a Braille version of the book? And then we got in contact with people here from this open source, open hardware Braille printer. And they were so amazed about that and getting that in such a nice format for them. So they actually then started to print this book, and it is the first book that was printed with open hardware and free software. And we now have that a German version and an English version, which is completely embossed in Braille as well. And you can do that for all the other language versions as well. You just need to be a bit patient, because the printers, you have to feed the paper manually, and that takes a while. Yes. Besides, there are other output formats. I always have a problem to pronounce that format. It's a Japanese format where you have this in this frame and then you read it out. I will now not try to say it the wrong way. Yeah, and they use it at like with in a lot of like kindergartens and so on to show this, and then you have the illustrations in there. And in France, they were also very innovative there and created this multilingual version. So there is a French-German and a French-English version. We also have some here, so if someone is interested, Pierre-Yves has them at the reception desk, which is mainly targeted at schools. One of the things that we got very engaged in is going to schools, to libraries, or some other events, and reading the book there. So I myself, I read the book meanwhile to over 1,600 children myself, and there are other volunteers at FSFE that also did that. Like here are two people also from FSFE at an event in Italy, where we are reading the book, and with the book explain like why should you get engaged into tinkering? Why should you start programming? And then afterwards, the other organizations that have done that for a longer time already, they then do courses with them with robots, with Scratch programming, or some other exercises they do with them. And at this event, we had even an Italian volunteer who brought ice cream with him, and then all the children first had ice cream, and then they could program. So yeah, when you look at the children's faces, you see that they are really really enjoying, especially the ice cream. It's also especially in France, used a lot in schools from what I have seen on pictures. So this one is also one French class. They are using it there. The French ministry was also providing that at events where you have a huge room with over 300 teachers and all of them get the book from the ministry. And then they are using this in the school context. And then they also developed some nice formats for what the children can then do after they heard about the story. This is a letter we received by a child who was writing to the character Zangemann from the book. So they are then writing him what they think about his behavior. And so we published some, and in general, like if you know any child who wants to write to Zangemann, they should send it to us and we forward it. Those rich people, they are a bit careful about where they live, so we will forward it to them. And if they agree, we will also publish the letters on our website. And it's really great to see how well they understand free software and vendor lock-in and monopolies and all those other topics already at the age of 8, 9, or 10. So this is really amazing to see. Also, some of them, afterwards, they do some exercises and think about like, what do you want to invent? What ideas do you have to build in future? And then you have such great things like this machine which can scan any object, and you can afterwards see it from how it looks like from the outside and also from the inside. Or there are others who are doing inventions like this soccer T-shirt production machine, 3D printer. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. And then so there was one thing that we were running into some issues. That's it's very hard to distribute books worldwide, and it's hard to find publishers in every country and to make sure that when you once found a publisher that the books are available everywhere else. And the other part was that we often got questions to read the book somewhere, and we didn't have someone who was available. And we had some people in Italy, they said like, yeah, we would go to school, maybe show a movie there and then afterwards discuss things with the children there about technology, but I don't want to read out myself. And we said like, but the schools, they don't have projectors and loudspeakers, which they are not well equipped in a lot of the schools. They said, that's not a problem. We will buy projectors, we will buy loudspeakers, we will handle all of that as long as I don't have to read out. And then we were fundraising for a movie. And several of the companies also involved around here were contributing to this as well. And then we were able to have a movie version of that. And that's now one of the things that it's available in German, English, French, Spanish, Danish, and there are others in the Italian, and others are in the queue there. And the great thing now is that when we have a translation done for around 3,600 euros, we can then generate a movie version for this with the audio, and everyone can download that and use that at school, at the youth club, at home, whatever you want. And another thing that happened was something that was really great to see, that several of the people involved in education, they also started to build some other things around, like they created an Ada and Zangemann game, a board game, some exercises you can do at school. And this is the website of the French Ministry of Education that is summarizing all the different things that are available there from them. And there is now also just from recently from the Austrian Ministry of Education, they built a whole online course where you can then also like click on some things and say what is software, what is hardware. They have some exercises the educators can then do with the kids. And that's all available also under open educational resources. We are now connecting them that they can use that in different settings. And so we hope that this will lead to way more resources available out there in Europe, so that we have more children that actually shape technology and just not just passively use software that is provided to them. Now, there's one thing like this, all of the things that I gave here as some examples that would not have been possible without all those different people who all participated with some small things. And I would really like to encourage you to also become part of this journey. So one thing is, if you have someone around you, or if you have a school around you and would like to offer that to them, go there and read this book. And I can really tell you, like, when I go there and I read this book and you see this energy and this motivation of those children, that's so motivating. That's for me an energy booster, and then I can go back to the work where we are in front of the European Court of Justice against Apple, or we are working with the processes at the European Union, or all those things where you have those big battles around you. That's really the motivation. You get it out of such a reading. That's amazing. I really recommend trying that out. If you read the book yourself or heard about it, then you can also share your views with the SharePic generator, where you can just enter some short quote, add a picture, and then share it in your channels. Feel free to give the book to others, get the ebook, and then send it around as much as you want. If you are involved in any installations at schools or at other places, there are often those folders that are empty, like videos or documents. Feel free to just include the ebooks or the movie files there. It's all under free software licenses, compatible with other free software licenses from distributions. And yeah, you can also organize screenings of the movie. The movie files are all online. They are also online there in DCP files. It's also something I learned in this project, that cinemas have movies in other files, and those are those DCP files. And yeah, that's also available on the website, so you can rent a cinema and have a screening. You can help with translations, also in dialects. As I said, there is this Breton version coming up. There is one, I don't know what the English word is, Elsässisch around Strasbourg. Alsatian, yeah. So and others. So you can very easily do that with this WebLay platform, that you just do the translation afterwards. The PDFs are generated out of that. And if you're a hacker and you would like to help with the automation and fixing some bugs in translation, left to right, right to left languages, or top to bottom languages, please get involved. And in general, if you are not able to do any of those things, but you say, well, I can support you with some donation, then we are very happy to receive a donation for our work and be able to finance this work of us in the area, to make sure that children get interested in technology, that they start to tinker, that they start to get engaged and help to shape a society which is shaped a lot by technology, and thereby also protect democracy. So thank you very much.